Have you ever been reading through The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and thought to yourself, I wish I could give birth to an old person? Well, if that has been you, stay tuned because I found out how to make that in Magic the Gathering. Now, I've wanted to make an Atla Palani Nest Tender deck for a long time now, and originally I was just going to do Eldrazi because I was like, haha, birth the Eldrazi, birth giant god titans from egg, so funny. But I thought that that's probably a little overdone. Now, when most people do an Atla Palani Nest Tender deck, they do dinosaurs because dinosaurs synergize really well together and because they were meant to go together. That's the big creature type on her plane. But I thought that was boring, so I went and searched and I searched and I found a creature type that cost a lot of mana typically and I thought could be interesting to give birth to, and that is Little Old Men. Now, here's my Atla Palani Nest Tender deck that specifically gives birth to elders. Now, to start with this deck tech, let's meet all of our Benjamin Buttons, all of our silly little old men that aren't scary at all. This is most of them that are available in these colors, but there are a few that didn't make the cut because I didn't like them quite enough. First one we have is Ancient Bronze Dragon. Next is Ancient Copper Dragon. After that is Ancient Gold Dragon. Then we get Dragon Lord Atarka and Dragon Lord Dromoka. After them is Atali Primal Conqueror and Atali Primal Storm. There's also Galta Primal Hunger, Galta Stampede Tyrant. Then there's Palladium Moors and Palladium Moors the Ruiner. After that is Zakama Primal Calamity, and finally Satalpa Primal Dawn. Mr. Beta Gamer, why didn't you include oh, Jesus the Flage Titan of Fire's Fury? Because I didn't like him that much. I'm gonna be honest with you. He's a 3-coster, so like there's not really a point in birthing him from egg, especially since he sacrifices himself. But what about Velomachus Lorehold, the other Elder Dragon? I just honestly didn't really like what he did. He does instants and sorcery stuffs, and this deck doesn't really care about that a whole lot. Now, how are we going to get our game plan done? How are we planning on getting out our commander and making eggs? We need mana to do that, so let's go into our mana base. For utility lands, we have Fountain Port, because that lets us sacrifice tokens. High Market, because that lets us sacrifice tokens. Lazotep Quarry, because that lets us sacrifice tokens. And Plaza of Heroes, because that... Now, are there other lands that let us sacrifice tokens? I don't know, probably, but I don't know of them. No, of course not. So after that, we have 13 forests, 10 mountains, and 10 plains. Now, of course, we're trying to get out our commander as quickly as possible, and we want to be able to create as many eggs as possible. So how do we do that? None other than ramp. Now, for our ramp package, we have Arcane Signet, of course, Chromatic Lantern, one of my favorite cards ever, Commander Sphere, because why not? I don't usually run this card, but it's kind of useful. Cultivate, duh. Curse Mirror, because it can also come in as a copy of an egg and then be sacrificed, and then that counts as a trigger for our commander. We have Hedron Archive, Mind Stone, and Soul Ring. So we have all of our ramp. We're getting out our commander really quickly, but our eggs are just sitting there and no one's attacking us because we have eggs that they don't want to get killed. So how are we supposed to get rid of those? Well, there are some sack outlets. Now, if you don't get the option of using black mana, sack outlets are few and far between. So here's what we have. We have Ashnod's Altar. That also gets us extra mana that we can then use to activate our commander. We have Blasting Station, which does technically let us do 1 damage. We got Duty Beyond Death. Goblin Bombardment lets us ping stuff. Perilous Forays, which does also help us ramp, which is nice. A Spawning Pit, which also lets us create 2/2s, just in case we needed it, I guess. Golden Throne, which also helps us ramp, and Witch's Oven, which lets us do life gain stuff. So now that we have all of the mana we could ever need, I am noticing something about our commander, and that is that you have to tap her to create an egg. That's really unfortunate. That means you can only do it once a turn. You know, that sucks. But little did you know, there are cards that untap other cards. I know. Unheard of, right? So, 4 cards that let us untap. We have Gift of the Viper. We have Great Train Heist, which also lets us do an additional combat phase if we're feeling spicy. Halo Fountain, which also technically gives us a win con if we're able to get enough tokens. Magerite Stone, because, you know, Ornamental Courage, Puppet Strings, Staff of Domination, of course, and 1,000-Year Elixir. Now, the question I know everyone's asking right now, if people have played against this deck before and they understand that you're here to just throw down Elder Gods at them, and they don't want Elder Gods to touch them, won't they just kill your commander as soon as it's on board? Well, I have the answer for that with these 14 protection cards. These are Clever Concealment, Cloud Shift, Dawn Charm, Dawn's Truce, Eerie Interlude, Final Showdown, which also doubles as a board wipe, which is important for later. Keep that in mind. Flare of Fortitude, Heroic Intervention, Lightning Greaves, Rebuff the Wicked, Snakeskin Veil, Swiftfoot Boots, Tamio's Safekeeping. Tamio's Safekeeping? I never know how to pronounce her name. And finally, Wrap in Vigor. Now, time for the thing that I said to keep in mind for later. Our board wipe package. Why are there so many board wipes, Mr. Beta? Well, that's because all board wipes are actually one-sided. Well, no, they're not. What about Austere Command? You're including that. That just destroys all creatures. No. You don't understand. It destroys all creatures, including eggs. And when eggs die, we get big creatures. So it kills all creatures and leaves us with gods, and they have nothing. Think about it. Think about the power. So because of that, we are running 5. Austere Command, Blasphemous Act, Cleansing Nova, Fumigate, and of course, Final Showdown, which I mentioned earlier. Most of these are modal, just to get extra use out of them, and the ones that aren't either cost less based off of stuff like Blasphemous Act, or Fumigate, which lets us gain life. And for the final set of cards in this deck, what if we're able to get out, our big old men that are also babies, because they were just born, but it turns out that other opponents have bigger threats, like the aforementioned Eldrazi that I was going to originally make this deck around. For that, we have Testosterone Boosters, fight spells. We have fight spells. Barroom Brawl, because that lets us just keep fighting if they're willing. Boxing Ring, which also creates treasure tokens. Bushwhack, which also gets us a land if we need that, and more importantly, Contest of Claws, which also lets us make one of them bigger if it won the fight. Dromoka's Command, which also doubles as some form of protection. Master's Rebuke, and Prize Fight, which also gets us a treasure token. My one regret with this deck is that I don't have a way to make the elders younger throughout the course of the game, but oh well, hatching old men from eggs is good enough for me. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this deck tech. If you have any other weird deck ideas you want me to try and do, leave them in the comments and I'll check them out, and I'll probably end up doing it. The background in today's video has been One Whole Me by Dev Lemons. I highly recommend you go check it out. It is a great song. I'll leave the link down in the description, along with the link to this deck on Moxfield in the description. And once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great rest of your day. Oh, and I think statistically this works, so I'm going to go ahead and say like, comment, and subscribe if you did enjoy it.